One day, Michelle accompanies her brother Christopher to an exam at a prestigious college. The boy has not yet reached the typical student age, but his outstanding mental abilities amaze the teachers. After the exam, Michelle is happy about his success, although Christopher himself absolutely does not want to go to college before she does. They argue about this when a passing young man in military uniform notices Christopher's t-shirt depicting Mickey Mouse and scolds him for a lack of patriotism. Michelle notices her brother's distress and reminds him that his strength lies in his mind. She is sure that his mission is to change the world and is ready to support him. The thing is, the last few years have not been very successful for humanity. After Walt Disney developed the first robots in 1955 for his theme park, they were put into mass production and quickly became the main workforce, carrying out all sorts of jobs. But one day, the robots grew tired of being slaves and began demanding a life of their own. The rebellion of the machines was led by a robot named Mr. Peanut. However, people viewed these peaceful protests as direct disobedience and declared war on the robots. Predictably, humans turned out to be weaker because robots do not need to sleep, eat, and they do not feel fatigue. Years later, a man named Eaton Skate emerged and created the Neurocaster, a device similar to modern VR which allowed a human mind to be linked to a machine. After that, people began winning the war. Mr. Peanut had to sign a document of capitulation. All remaining robots were confined to a special exclusion zone enclosed by a huge multi-kilometer wall. Skate's company took on the task of improving people's lives by introducing Neurocasters into everyday use, allowing people to be in two places at once, at work and in a virtual world. The products of the Center Corporation are now available in every corner of the globe. 2 years after the war, an older Michelle lives with her foster father, Ted, who spends all his time in virtual reality. The girl is considered a difficult teenager, so Ted monitors her movements with the help of a tracker on her leg. That morning, Michelle heads off to school, where she refuses to wear a virtual reality headset. The principal sympathizes with her loss. Her entire family died in a car accident, but insists she follow the rules. And Michelle remembers her brother Christopher again. At night, Michelle dreams of the car crash in which her father hit a deer, recalling the bespectacled doctor at the hospital. Waking from the nightmare, she discovers a cartoonish-looking robot named Cosmo in the backyard. She panics, hides under the bed, and fails to wake Ted, but Cosmo finds her. He shows no aggression and gestures for her to fix his voice module, which she does, giving him the ability to speak, but only in cartoon lines. Cosmo insists he's actually her brother, Christopher, though Michelle doesn't believe him. Ted, hearing the commotion, accuses her of breaking the law and pushes her. Cosmo defends Michelle, displaying the shared symbols she and her brother use. When Ted tries calling the police, Michelle stuns him. She and Cosmo flee in a car, removing her tracking bracelet and damaging Ted's drone. At a war memorial, they discover a flat tire and no spare. Cosmo explains they need the center where Christopher's body lies, though he doesn't know its location. He blames the bespectacled doctor who declared Christopher dead after the accident, someone living in the robot reservation. Finding contraband in Ted's trunk, Michelle realizes it came from a sender who knows how to cross the wall. They stow away on a train through the desert, then steal a boat so Michelle can sleep while Cosmo navigates. Reaching a city at night, they await a smuggler. Michelle steps into a store and Cosmo pities a homeless man absorbed in VR. She reminds him that they can't solve everyone's problems. Soon, the smuggler's cargo truck arrives. Preparing to sell a relic revolver to his client, he's threatened at gunpoint when the buyer learns it's loaded and refuses to pay. The smuggler utters a code phrase, and immediately an electric discharge is fired from the truck, with which the man's partner, the robot Herman, disables the drone buyer. While the partners hide the mechanical body, Michelle and Cosmo climb into the truck bed. At the same time, a drone controlled by the robot hunter, Marshall Bradbury, finds Ted's abandoned car, reads the address on the parcel in the trunk, and realizes where to look for Michelle. Meanwhile, the smuggler, whose name is Keats, drives his truck to a base located near the wall enclosing the zone. Herman unloads a wooden crate containing Michelle and Cosmo into an underground storage area filled with contraband loot from the reservation. Later, Keats discovers that his products have gone bad because the refrigerator was disconnected after Herman borrowed the cord for his own recharging. The partners quarrel, but the argument is interrupted by a suspicious noise deeper in the warehouse, caused by Michelle and Cosmo. Keats does not have time to figure out who they are or where they came from because the elevator starts moving. The new arrival is Marshall Bradbury, demanding that they hand over the robot and the girl. Keats tries to negotiate with him peacefully, but Bradbury opens fire, destroying everything inside. Michelle cuts the power, forcing the marshal to look for the fugitives in the dark, though this is not a big problem for him. Keats tries to shoot him with the revolver, but to no avail. Spotting Michelle and Cosmo, the marshal moves toward them, only to be caught in Herman's trap. While the marshal struggles to free himself, the fugitives activate a minecart in the depths of the cave and climb into it. However, a shot from Bradbury's energy cannon overturns the cart. Cosmo and Herman engage in a one-sided fight with the drone, but Michelle intervenes and rams Bradbury with a bulldozer, pinning him against the wall. At the same time, she knocks out a support beam, causing the entire storage area to collapse. The marshal loses the connection to his drone, and both humans and robots find themselves cut off from the outside world, since the cave was the only entrance to the exclusion zone. Keats shouts in anger, realizing they will have to survive under completely unsuitable conditions. Moreover, dangerous scavenger robots are roaming about, taking other robots apart to claim their parts. Spotting one such scavenger, the people hide, and then Keats is forced to smash the remains of the robot, which is loudly advertising their presence to the entire area. After this, Keats leads the group to a hangar he had prepared just in case, where supplies are stored along with a huge construction robot that serves as Herman's body. However, Keats believes that this won't help them get back to the outside world. Michelle offers the smuggler a deal. He will help find the doctor in glasses, who lives somewhere in the wasteland, and that doctor will tell them how to leave the reservation. Realizing he has no other choice, Keats agrees. Herman, controlling the large robot, carries the humans on its shoulder in a motorless minivan they found right there in the hangar. On the way through the desert, the smuggler talks about serving in the war against the machines, and how Herman once saved his life by carrying the wounded man off the battlefield. His fellow soldiers did not understand this and nearly shot the robot. That was when they both fled, together. Meanwhile, Skate speaks with his mother, who sweetly asks her son to sit at the table and enjoy the stuffed peppers she has made. Suddenly, however, the woman begins to flicker. It becomes clear that this is a virtual reality with an enhanced childhood memory. Furious, Skate summons his subordinates to find out the reason for the glitch. They explain that data transfer speeds have plummeted because the most crucial element of the entire network, Christopher, has escaped from the laboratory. More precisely, it was not his physical body, but his consciousness, which found a loophole and, having transferred into a robot's body, vanished from the center. To retrieve Chris's consciousness, Skate turns to Bradbury. The men meet on a virtual lake, exchange compliments, and agree that the marshal will locate the robot, leaving Michelle's fate to his own conscience. Using his capabilities, Skate restores Bradbury's buried drone, and it emerges back to the surface. Meanwhile, in the reservation, the fugitives come upon a shopping mall where robots that survived the war have taken refuge. However, the robots notice them and bombard the bot with refrigerators, then take them prisoner. They are taken to a central facility where the stunned humans see a multitude of robots building their new society. They are led to a van where they are greeted by none other than Mr. Peanut himself. He explains that they live here quietly and peacefully and that they captured them, mistaking them for scavengers. Michelle asks Mr. Peanut to tell her where she can find the doctor, but instead of answering, the robot leads them through the facility, explaining that the robots can live and develop here without fear of human interference and can even learn new professions. A robot hairstylist runs up, inspired by Keats' hairstyle, but he flatly refuses any changes to his hair. Michelle reminds him of her request, to which Peanut replies that their very presence gives the center grounds to destroy this place. The best he can do is guide them into the desert and leave them there. At that moment, Keats notices a cafe and rushes over, but the robot waiter admits that they haven't actually prepared anything here for a long time and offers some canned beans. Keats reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, Mr. Peanut confesses that the doctor was indeed here, but he had to leave so as not to violate the signed treaty, thus giving humans a pretext for another war of extermination. A disappointed Michelle wants to leave, but Keats convinces her to stay the night so they are not wandering through the desert in the dark. The girl agrees, but as she prepares for bed, she again remembers Christopher coming home from college for Christmas. The boy says he does not want to study there and intends to return home. Michelle reminds him that he has an important mission ahead. They watch the Cosmo cartoon together, admitting that they missed each other. Seeing Michelle's tears, Cosmo turns on a projector and shows their favorite cartoon, which catches the attention of the other robots. They gather around to reminisce about days gone by. Peanut watches this from a distance. That night, a mail delivery robot comes to Michelle with a secret message from the doctor in which he left Christopher his address. Mr. Peanut overhears their conversation and in the morning offers the humans his help. But first, he introduces the guests to a robot baseball player capable of powerful hits, who also plans to go with them. The group drives away from the facility, not noticing that Marshall's drone is watching them. Night has already fallen when they arrive at an abandoned amusement park, now infested with fearsome scavengers. Noticing the newcomers, these monsters surround them, preventing them from reaching the house where a light is shining. The team fights their way through, but when they get close, they suddenly realize that the doors on the house are just painted on the wall. They lead nowhere. Out of nowhere, loud music blares, fireworks ignite on both sides, and then the floor beneath them collapses. They slide into an underground laboratory where Dr. Amherst greets them with a shotgun. But when Cosmo hands him a postcard, the man understands that his plan for Christopher to escape has succeeded. With Keats and Herman backing her up, Michelle vents her grievances, demanding an explanation of what happened to her brother. The doctor explains that Christopher's body was found after the accident and taken to a hospital. Amherst activates the PC built into the salvage robot, where he has stored his memories and information. It shows Christopher in a coma. During the examination, the scientists discovered that his brain had unique characteristics that made him perfectly suited to control the unified network. To take advantage of the boy, the doctors announced his death. However, a year and a half later, Christopher began to show signs of life. Amherst wanted to end the experiment, but Skate refused and threatened to kill him. So he fled the center into the reservation, having first left a small communications channel so Christopher could load his consciousness into a robot, which he eventually did. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Marshal Bradbury, who blasts open the door and informs Skate of discovering the doctor and the fugitives. Mr. Peanut confronts the Marshal in battle while the humans flee through the emergency exit. But once outside, the group hears the rotor blades of the center's approaching drone landing party. They are forced into an uneven fight, defending themselves with whatever they can, while the Marshal brutally beats Peanut and breaks his hat. After disabling Peanut, the Marshal locates Michelle, Cosmo, and the doctor. Amherst tells the girl to run while he steps forward. Being an honorable hunter, the Marshal does not want to kill a human, but Skate takes control of one of the drones and shoots the doctor. Amherst dies, and the drones grab Cosmo and carry him away. The Marshal advises Michelle to go home, then departs as well. People and robots return to the shopping mall, only to find that it too has been attacked by center drones. The building is in ruins, and many bots have perished. Meanwhile, Cosmo is taken to the center's main office, where he sees his physical body lying in a capsule with a life support system. Marshall expresses his outrage to Skate for making him hunt a living child rather than a robot, but Skate cynically laughs at his moral concerns, pointing out that Chris's brain allows everyone else to leave their suffering behind. Thus, sacrifices are necessary. Skate orders his team to connect the robot to the system and restore its consciousness so the network can operate at full power. Meanwhile, Michelle grieves for her brother for the second time in her life when Keats appears, having finally agreed to get a haircut from the surviving robot hairdresser. She wants to sneak into the office using the doctor's PC, which knows all the passwords. However, the bot informs her that disconnecting Christopher from the network will disable all of the center's drones. And although Peanut reminds them of the beating he suffered, the other robots are ready to give the center one final battle that could change the world. The robots leave the reservation in trucks, then travel underwater to reach the center's main base. Herman starts the attack by hurling cars from the parking lot at the building. Security deploys drones, which chase after the audacious robot without suspecting it's a trap. Lying in wait in the woods beyond the parking lot are the rest of the robots. A battle ensues as Michelle makes her way inside the building. The drones damage the gigantic construction robot, but Herman keeps fighting. The robots successfully hold off the guards, showing extraordinary courage and skill. This forces Skate to activate a special drone. At the same time, Michelle and the PC reach the laboratory where Chris's body lies. On the battlefield, Skate's massive drone appears and begins destroying the robots. Marshall arrives there as well and encounters Peanut, who is willing to die but not to retreat. Impressed, the Marshal refuses to continue the fight, realizing that compared to the soulless corporation destroying human lives for its own ends, the robots seem far more humane. Bradbury voluntarily disconnects and removes his headset. Meanwhile, Michelle uses a neurocaster to connect to Christopher's consciousness. Entering her brother's mind, she finds herself in their old home, where the boy sits in front of the TV, watching his favorite cartoon. Christopher admits that the situation is hopeless. Without the center's technology, he cannot survive. The only way out is to turn off his life support system and let him go. Michelle cannot bring herself to make that choice, though she understands he's right. Back on the battlefield, the robots are taking heavy losses. Mr. Peanut locates Skate to propose renegotiating the treaty. At the same time, Herman takes a powerful hit and shuts down. The PC informs Michelle that their friends are in big trouble. Chris reminds her that the world needs to change, and she's the one who must do it. Listening to her brother, Michelle shuts down Christopher's life support. The boy lies down on the couch, closes his eyes, and drifts off to sleep. Out on the battlefield, Keats prepares to meet his end at the hands of a drone, but it suddenly powers down. The rest of the combat drones go offline right after. Keats delivers a touching monologue over the body of his fallen friend, but then the robot's head compartment opens, revealing yet another, smaller Herman, who has been operating the mechanism the entire time, like a nesting doll. With the network disabled, the center's empire has fallen. When journalists get hold of the video recordings of the experiment on Christopher, Skate is arrested and subjected to universal condemnation. Michelle, now called the girl who raised the robot's rebellion, records a message from the reservation urging anyone who wishes to join them in the quest for a true peace and new friends, as well as to exit virtual reality and start living in the real world. Chris embraces her, showing that he will never abandon a friend. Cosmo's body is thrown into a junkyard, but he rises, his reflection shining in a puddle, offering hope that Chris's consciousness might still be intact. The film is far from perfect. It has plot holes, logical inconsistencies, and rough edges that lessen its impact. Yet the heartfelt acting, humor, and incredible special effects that bring the unusual robots to life are worthy of praise. And it's worth remembering that people are always responsible for those they have tamed,